Good evening. It's good to see you this evening. I couldn't get out earlier, and it became dark because I was working hard. But had I not been spending the time, I probably wouldn't have drawn my attention to the Department of Justice deciding to dismiss all federal charges against Trump. The spectacular idiocy and failure to fulfill the oath of office as the Attorney General or a special counsel is highlighted by this failure. Not that we are surprised that the Justice Department has failed. When the going gets tough, they run for the hills. And this is a paraphrase of what Bobby Kennedy said. That is, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And we have first been misled by Attorney General Barr, who was very transparent about how he was helping Trump, and how he tried to chase and did successfully chase and remove the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, lest Trump be a part of that case. And so now we jump forward. We have an appointee as Attorney General by a Democratic President Biden, and he chooses a special counsel after fiddling around for 2 years doing nothing, perhaps driven to finally act because the January 6th committee outlined a prosecution that could not be denied and wasn't. And ultimately, the special counsel came over from The Hague, and he was going to be our great white hope, like Mueller had been our great white hope in the Barr administration, the Trump Barr administration. And so the case was brought, and a number of us prosecutors, former prosecutors, asked questions. Why aren't you dealing with this biased and prejudiced judge in Florida and having her removed, recusing herself from the case because she transparently is doing whatever she can to help Trump? No sale, didn't do anything. She dismisses the case, and they languish in the appeal. That's one of the cases, the stolen documents case. I call stolen documents because the president's not allowed to take these documents, top secret documents, out of the White House and leave them in his bathroom and around his room and show them to people and take them to New Jersey and do whatever the hell else he did with them. And either that law means something or it doesn't. People thought top secrets mattered in the past, and I think they do matter. Remember the old phrase that we're of an age, we only know these things historically, loose lips sink ships. And what it means in modern days is it means it may result in the killing or destruction or defamation or slander or false stories or any number of things against people who are what we call assets, and information that we have that can save us from war or a number of incidents that would compromise our peace and security. Now, the other case went before Judge Chutkan, who is a U.S. district judge in the District of Columbia. And there's some irony there. The day that the grand jury was returning an indictment against Trump, I was in that courthouse. And I was appearing before Judge Chutkan, and at that time we didn't know who would be assigned that case. And I said to her, how do you feel, Your Honor, about becoming the person chosen in that case to handle it? And she said, I certainly hope not. And she did say that. So then the case goes forward with not so special an assistant Smith and Judge Chutkan, and then also Judge, I called her Loose Cannon, down in Florida. And so these two cases were dismissed today. Now, there's not a hesitation any of us have who reviewed the case to say that the cases are strong and important. Top secrets and trying to overthrow the government so that you can win an election that by all accounts you lost, including all the 60 or so cases you went into court claiming something was false when you couldn't demonstrate that it was false. So what is my reaction? Well, you see me here looking fairly calm, but I like to run around this room cleaning all those things that are hanging about and smash something. And I do have a heavy bag, and I did hit it earlier today, letting off that kind of energy. But the soulful pain of a government that you imbue with your trust because of its responsibility to do what's necessary to uphold the law, so that when they fail, you feel it especially because you care about your government, you care about prosecutions, particularly of corrupt people, and you've been taught to believe that no man is above the law, though if there's any lesson that we can gather from the years 2015 to today, it is that Trump is above the law, that others before him have been above the law, and that the system gets distorted to help them, whether it be Mueller, his case saying, oh, we could never prosecute a president. And then now, again, it's, oh, we can't prosecute a president. And where does that come from? It comes from a memo inside the Department of Justice that has no value at all. It's a memo. It's an opinion. And there have been special counsel who have considered this question, and they have thought that you could go forward with a prosecution, and I agree with that analysis. And I often mention Vice President Agnew's case, in which he was prosecuted while vice president. He first went to court, and the pleadings were terrific. And the argument was, it passed the laugh test, but I thought it was a wrong argument, that it would be overthrown, and it was. And the argument was, well, you can't prosecute me unless you first impeach me. And what the court said was, these are two different things. An impeachment is a removal from office. A prosecution is a criminal prosecution. And they said that Spiro Agnew, could be prosecuted while vice president. So I don't see why those two pieces of information, that there's nothing binding about an opinion by the Department of Justice. And normally lawyers would fight that point, as has been suggested by those special prosecutors since, who've opined that they thought you could prosecute a president. And then, of course, you have the Spiro Agnew case, which, yes, he's not the president, he's the vice president. And then there is the common sense rule. Where is Thomas Paine when you need him? And the question is, so are you saying that a president who's committed crimes, in this case, as president against the oath of office he took, to overthrow an election he lost so he could falsely win, is something we should not prosecute while he's in office, when we're put on notice that he is a danger, a clear and present danger to the nation, not just for these cases, but for many other things, including the other tools that were ignored by our so-called leaders. That is the tool of impeachment, nothing. That is the tool to bar him from running for office, nothing. And now we have the so-called law enforcement division in our cabinet who say, I don't know, I don't think we can prosecute him. We got to stop, because he was elected by thunderheads all across the country in a plurality election that is filled with false statements and misreadings of all manner of issues. But that's a different question. Saying you won an election and saying you're worthy to be the president and saying that you are immune from prosecution for acts which are not lawful acts. It is not a lawful act to overturn a government. It is not a lawful act to get electors who are false to go in and to try to distort the process of counting the electoral vote and changing it from who won, which was Biden, to who lost, which is Trump. So we have to have some more clarity in our discussion. Now, I've seen a couple of shows that have started this evening after this news was out, and I can't believe this isn't the lead. And you know why it's not the lead? Because they haven't figured out how to package it for us. I'm sorry to say this, because I have great respect for journalists. I've dabbled, if you will, though I'm mostly, I think the way you describe me is I do law and politics, and that's who I am. And I do enjoy talking about these issues as I'm doing with you now and appearing on TV and so forth, if I think I can contribute something to the public debate. In this case, whatever I contribute may be some quiet in your soul to contradict the worthless information we're getting about what these things mean, instead of cutting through the bullshit to what's really going on. What's really going on is another hero prosecutor like Mueller, special counsel Smith, failed. Oh no, they were gonna stop the investigation anyhow. They were gonna do also. Then make them do it. That's what happened in Watergate. In Watergate, what they did was they stood their ground, and they were fired. And it's why the prosecutions went forward, because the entire nation was educated and these men and women stood forward. And in addition, they took the documents and so forth from their prosecution and they protected them. What's going to happen to the documents in this case involving Trump? Are you kidding? We had a story just 1 or 2 days ago in which Trump basically said, what we're going to do is we're going to prosecute the people who prosecuted us. And what is the angle on that? And so this kind of, I had a law teacher who talked about renvoi, which is something coming back on itself. And so this is what they want to come back on. But just like the 60 cases that they had that amounted to nothing, now they say they're going to have an investigation to prove there really was fraud. And then they're going to chase the wrongdoers, which are the prosecutors, who by my lights are a little light in the loafers in terms of actually being much of a prosecutor. I've gotten a couple of messages today from prosecutors who are literally coming off the walls saying, how is this possible? Because the code and the impulse of a good prosecutor is, if you have a case involving a crime and it's substantial, you investigate it and you either find it has credibility and you have the evidence to prove it, or you don't. And indeed, if a case was prosecuted and you find afterwards that, it was questionable, you might even dismiss it, as was the case in the Southern District of New York where I served. And so what am I saying? I'm saying we have a huge problem. We have a Justice Department that even before the next president comes in, Trump, we're on notice. We're now going to have a Department of Justice that is not made into an attack dog by Trump and his cronies. And 2 of the lawyers who defended him are going to be put in key positions in the department. So whomever they put in the office as AG, the deputy and the head of the Solicitor General's office will be probably key to what they do going forward. What are we going to do? We keep our mouths open. We talk about it. We complain about it. Those of you who are inclined to run for office, do that. Those who are in party positions, do that. Those who are national delegates or national committee persons, you have to express your view. We are being let down by the people who purport to be our leaders. We are being let down because the very nature of our government, whether it be as a republic or as a monarchy or an oligarchy or some other creature which is dominated by one chubby fellow from Florida, is not acceptable, nor any successor that would take his position, and like Vance. So we're into a lot here. But the one thing that can make a difference, I think, is to follow that old network thing. They throw open the window and say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And we're at that point. And some people who say, oh, this is regular, you don't understand. And, what's his name? Smith, he didn't do anything wrong. He was just following orders from Garland. Well, that doesn't cut it. It just doesn't cut it. You, as a person, have a combination of a dignity, a charge, a knowledge, an experience, an oath of office. And if those things don't all line up in such a way for you to object to what's going on, and instead you fall on your sword, you're not doing your job. And Garland hasn't done his job from day one. I mean, isn't it outrageous that we would have a president try to overthrow the government and he's immune from federal prosecution, but the son of the president for a bullshit case that they had agreed to is being prosecuted for it? So, I don't know. I could go on for a long time. I've probably gone on long enough. I hope that what I have to say is useful for you, other than just getting you upset and angry about it. I have noticed through my career that I won't say there are opportunities, but you can send out a message that you're available to be used. I send out very different signals. And I have seen a lot of it, and I've been fascinated by corruption since before I became a prosecutor. When I decided I wanted to go into politics, because of a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to a cousin who said, "I want to go into politics. What should I do?" And he said, "You should go study law." And I have that letter, and I read it carefully. It says a lot more than that. And I kind of followed that as a plan. And my thinking was, well, all Irishmen think they should know the rules so they know when they're getting close to the line. But on top of that, if you think you're going to be a lawgiver or you're going to be involved in that, then doesn't that make sense? And doesn't it also make sense that you spend time, if you become a trial lawyer, learning how to argue, which I think is a skill that's useful on the stump, or even what we're doing right now, talking about things. Of course, I was, as a kid, a kid who liked to argue, and so did my friends, which doesn't surprise you, I suppose. And we refined our argument. At one point, since we all agreed, I started just taking the contrary position against my friends because I figured I was never going to get any practice arguing because we all already agreed. And then they started doing the same thing, so that was fun. So you have to be able to argue, you have to be able to write, you have to be able to speak. And in my opinion, and those things are convertible talents from law and politics. And looking back on my history, these are the right choices for me, my inclinations, the things that motivate me, what I think I'm able to do. And I'm sure there are dissenting voices out there, but I've had a good career, and I expect to continue it. And I think it's a service and a responsibility when you see a wrong to point it out. Newspapers say they're doing it, but they're not, because the corporate owners are looking other places. So that's what I got. Tomorrow I hope to be out on the trail in the daylight, and I'll talk to you then. So have a good evening, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.